Good morning. Florence, now a tropical storm, is moving very slowly, nearly stationary, over eastern North Carolina this morning. It will produce catastrophic flooding over parts of North and South Carolina for some time. At 8 o'clock Eastern Time, Florence was centered 35 miles west of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and contained maximum sustained winds of 50 miles an hour. Areas near Newport, North Carolina have received nearly 2 feet of rain from Florence, and powerful rain bands may produce another 15 to 20 inches or more, and these rain bands may slide south into the Wilmington area during the day today. As Florence drifts into north central and northwestern North Carolina and South Carolina, it will take the very heavy rain bands with it, and heavy rain may impact the Charlotte, North Carolina area late tonight into tomorrow. A 3 to 5 foot storm surge is still expected for portions of the Neuse and Pamlico basins. A tornado watch remains in effect for southeastern North Carolina, and waterspouts are possible over the open waters. Many rivers will experience catastrophic flooding from Florence, including portions of the Neuse, northeast Cape Fear Basin, the PD River, the Little PD River Basin, the Lumber River, and the Waccamaw River. As the remnants of Florence make their way into the southern and central Appalachians, rivers and streams flowing out of the mountains will also experience moderate to major flooding. The details of this will become more clear early next week. Be aware that rivers will stay in flood stage for an extended period of time. The next update from the National Hurricane Center will be issued at 11 o'clock Eastern Time.
Good morning. NOAA is now moving into response and recovery mode. The Weather Service Forecast Office in this particular area of North Carolina and South Carolina have been dealing with some significant flash flooding. I'd like to take this opportunity to extend my deepest appreciation and gratitude towards the Hurricane Center and the Weather Service, particularly the Morehead City and Wilmington forecast offices. Individuals here have been sheltered in place for many days, yet these particular offices have remained fully operational. The Office of Coastal Survey has been deployed to the Hurricane Center to verify the storm surge magnitude. What we're dealing with here is a major flooding and rain event. At this point, we're also looking at potential landslides, and the flooding is far from over. So please follow instructions from state and local emergency managers. Do not attempt to drive through any water that you see on the roadway. Just remember, turn around, don't drown.
All right, good morning, team. I obviously want to start out again by thanking the media all across the board on this storm for getting our message out. We need more of that as the storm moves inland. There's, as the Weather Service just pointed out, large amounts of rain falling all over both states, and it will continue to fall. Please urge the citizens not to try to drive through high water. You don't know, the depth of it is not safe. Don't drown, turn around. FEMA is well positioned to support our state and local partners. We have rescues ongoing. We have hundreds of thousands without power, just as we anticipated. And we're poised and ready to go in when conditions are safe to start the restoration of our critical lifelines. Again, I urge everyone to wait for local officials to give the all clear before our citizens return to the impacted areas. As you know, the President declared a major disaster for North Carolina. That opens up lines of assistance in the individual assistance side and public assistance side. And other declarations we anticipate to follow. We have many thousands of people in shelters. Again, though, we have adequate resources to support our state and local partners on that. We have adequate meals for emergency feeding. We have adequate generators for critical services. We continue to monitor those critical facilities to make sure that we have plans in place should we need to enact any type of evacuation or support the fueling of emergency generators. At this time, we see no shortfalls. We continue to work closely not only with the partners that you see on the stage, but our state and local partners, our private sector partners, our non-governmental partners, and really a whole community approach. So you'll hear me say the word team. You're a member of that team. Our citizens are a member of that team. Emergency management, disaster response, and recovery is just that. It's not a one government level. It's a team approach. So we're very, very pleased with that. The state's very, very pleased with that, and we continue to support all the way around. At this time, I want to turn it over to our good friend with the EPA, Mr. Chatham. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. EPA continues to monitor numerous sources of information for reports on releases of oil and hazardous substances from the first responders who are in search and rescue efforts, from media observations and reports, from information from facility representatives and personnel embedded at their sites, and the information flows from local command posts and from state emergency operations centers. On September 14th, EPA Region 4 received a notification of spill of 7,000 gallons of used oil from a facility in Shelby, North Carolina. That is not related to Tropical Storm Florence. The oil has impacted the ditch on the roadside immediately outside of the facility and is threatening Hickory Creek, which leads to Broad River. Local responders deployed sand in an attempt to stop the oil, but the impact has reached nearby storm drains leading to Hickory Creek. EPA reached out to the potentially responsible party and the local responders, and they requested our assistance to prevent further oil from leaving the property. Due to the incoming inclement weather from Tropical Storm Florence, EPA dispatched a local contractor to mitigate and recover the oil. We're also coordinating with the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality, Division of Waste Management. Also on September 14th, EPA issued no action assurances regarding the requirements applicable to loading of fuel tank trucks at petroleum distribution terminals in Georgia. And we also issued a no action assurance for fuel delivery in bulk gasoline terminals, marine and rail loading terminals, and associated truck loading racks in North Carolina. We continue to coordinate with our federal, state, and local and tribal partners to provide assistance as needed. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Rear Admiral Meredith Austin from the Coast Guard. Our priority remains the safety of the people and our responders in the affected area. The Coast Guard continues to work in concert with FEMA, the Army Corps of Engineers, and our other federal, state, local, and private sector partners responding to the storm. Right now we have over 7,500 Coast Guard men and women involved with the response and are ready to flow in more as needed. Our primary mission right now is search and rescue. We have 43 aircraft staged out of air stations Elizabeth City and Savannah, Georgia, and to date have rescued 5 people and assisted 1. We have Coast Guard personnel embedded with FEMA, Department of Defense, and state emergency operations centers to enable a coordinated whole-of-government response. Now that the winds have eased a bit, our search and rescue resources are conducting overflights to look for distress and to conduct damage assessments to critical infrastructure. We are coordinating with EPA, NOAA, local and state stakeholders to look for and respond to any oil or chemical spills that may be a result of the storm. The Port of Virginia has reopened with restrictions, but the ports of Wilmington, Morehead City in North Carolina, and Georgetown, South Carolina remain closed. A multi-agency team of Coast Guard, Army Corps of Engineers, NOAA, and NOAA personnel, in conjunction with port partners, are assessing the damage and beginning repairs in order to reopen the ports as soon as possible and safe to do so. In that regard, our priorities are reopening the Cape Fear River, the Port of Morehead City, and the North Carolina ferry system. We would like to remind people in the affected areas to stay off the waters because buoys may be missing or off station, or there may be submerged hazards. Stay in a safe location while Coast Guard and other state and local authorities assess the damage and disperse resources to help. If you need assistance, the best way for help is to dial 911 for the best available resources to be dispatched to your location. Now I'd like to introduce Mr. Ray Alexander of the Army Corps.
Thank you, Admiral. Hey, good morning. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is a major command in the United States Army. I'd first like to share with you that the #1 priority for Army assets is to support the American people. And to that end, we have over 6,500 National Guard soldiers deployed to Virginia, North Carolina, and South Carolina, with an additional 2,900 active component forces ready to deploy as needed. Additionally, assets provided over 115 rotary wing helicopter aircraft, 5 fixed wing, and over 1,300 high water trucks have been committed. The Corps of Engineers, in support of FEMA and under our Stafford Act authorities, we are ready to respond and actually are responding in several of our lines of effort at this point. To that end, we have over 131 Corps of Engineer personnel deployed. We have $6.1 million in FEMA mission assignment dollars with 16 mission assignments, and we have committed over $1.8 million of our own flood control coastal emergency funds to fight floods. I'll now brief by lines of effort in terms of dam and levee safety. First of all the federal dams are in good condition. We're monitoring state and locally owned dams, and we are prepared to provide inspections and assist as needed. We've deployed technical experts, subject matter experts, flood fight material, sandbags, pumps, and portable barriers. On emergency power, we have sufficient generators on the ground, over 120, and more are arriving. To date, we've conducted 12 assessments. 3 inspections are complete, 1 installation is complete, and another 11 installations are in process. In terms of navigation, we have no request for this at this time. However, we will work with the U.S. Coast Guard and NOAA to rapidly clear channels and ports. To that end, we have over 7 Corps and 15 industry dredges available, and 12 survey vessels that are still in safe harbor, but will be able to respond immediately. In terms of debris, we have no request for support this time, but we have subject matter experts deployed. The same with roofing and water and wastewater. We're postured to provide infrastructure assessments and assist EPA with the water wastewater mission. In terms of command and control, Major General Scott Spellman, our Deputy Commanding General for Civil and Emergency Operations, has departed North Carolina. He's en route to the state EOC in Columbia, South Carolina. And we still have our South Atlantic Division Commander, Brigadier General Diana Holland, as well, circulating in the Carolinas, as well as our Wilmington and Charleston District Commanders. With that, I would like to introduce Dr. Bob Cadlick from HHS. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ray. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Dr. Bob Cadlick, the Assistant Secretary for Preparedness Response at Health and Human Services. As this storm continues to evolve and create treacherous conditions, we continue to monitor the health sector in the areas affected of South Carolina, North Carolina, and parts of Virginia. And as they become better known, we're ready to assist them. Just as a reminder, Secretary Azar mobilized our entire department to basically respond and support those communities, state, local, and tribal officials in the response to this storm. He has declared public health emergencies in those 3 states, and we have deployed over 560 personnel and a variety of teams to localities there to support state and local authorities. To this point, our support has been limited to providing medical assistance at shelters in High Point, North Carolina, Goldsboro, North Carolina, as well as Clayton, as well as 2 locations in Virginia, Williamsburg and Newport News. We are ready to assist in any way, and in conversations with state health officials this morning, they seem to be doing a great job, and so far we're in a standby mode. But to tell you that we have several DMAT teams, disaster medical assistant teams, as well as a variety of other capabilities that we can bring to bear, as well as hundreds of ground ambulances and rotary wing ambulances should we need to do patient transport or medical evacuation. As you've heard, in terms of the tragic loss of life so far, there are a number of particular hazards that are out there that we just want to remind the public about. To reiterate what Jeff Barrett said, people should not return to their homes or to their neighborhoods until they've been cleared by their local officials. And the continuing risk of falling debris, rising waters are potentially a great hazard, but also with the loss of power, we've already had 1 tragic death with generator use. And again, that became evident in terms of potentially electrocutions as well as carbon monoxide poisoning. So we really want to reiterate the importance right now in this situation, which will extend for several days, as you heard from the Weather Service, of rising waters and potential high winds, at least in the near term, that people should be on their guard and avoid situations that put themselves and their families or neighbors at risk. Thank you very much, and I'll be followed now by Charlie English from the American Red Cross.
Thank you, Administrator Byard, for your leadership and inclusive environment that you create for the private nonprofits to come in and be part of the team. Would like to give you an update on Red Cross activities. We continue to move thousands of our trained volunteers from all over the country into the impacted area, along with numerous tractor trailer loads of supplies to be ready to support the mass care effort during this event. I wanted to make sure that everyone was aware of a family reunification instrument that we have that's found on our website, redcross.org. Under the Get Help tab, it's Safe and Well. You can post messages that if you're safe and secure and you want your loved ones to know that, you can post that. Your loved ones can search that website to find out if you're okay as well. I'd like to ask that you consider donating blood. We've had to cancel over 140 blood drives, which means that there were over 2,500 people that were unable to give blood, that were planning to give blood prior to this event. So if you're anywhere outside the impacted area, I would ask that you make an appointment and give blood, and that can be your way to help. I also would like to encourage you, if you want to help in another way, to consider volunteering with the Red Cross or other volunteer organizations, and you can be part of the trained cadre that comes in to help these communities in times of need. Thank you. Oh, and my apologies. Now I turn it over to my friend with the Office of Disability Integration. Thank you.
Thank you, and good morning. Today's focus for FEMA's Office of Disability Integration and Coordination remains the life safety of people with disabilities who've been impacted by Hurricane Florence. As this becomes an extended flood and power outage event, more people with disabilities will be heading to shelters. So we're continuing to work closely with our state and Red Cross partners to ensure that the needs of people with disabilities in shelters are met. One of our top priorities is ensuring that survivors with disabilities who are power dependent have access to the power they need for life-sustaining and life-saving measures. Our efforts in FEMA Region 4 are led by a disability integration advisor at the region. During the response and recovery, she will be supported by disability integration advisors who will be deployed to North and South Carolina to advise FEMA and state leadership. These efforts are being coordinated with the North Carolina State Disability Integration Advisor, South Carolina Mass Care Specialists, and 4 Red Cross Disability Integration Coordinators, again working together to ensure the needs of survivors with disabilities are being met during response and recovery. And finally, we're continuing to work with our ESF, or Emergency Support Function partners, to keep an eye on the power outages and plans for power restoration to ensure the needs of survivors who are power dependent are met. We're also continuing to work closely with our state and Red Cross partners to begin addressing the transition of people with disabilities from the shelters to interim housing and finally back to independent living in the community. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm David Marstead, Chief Executive of the National Flood Insurance Program with FEMA. The NFIP is poised to help and assist our policyholders as this event continues to unfold. We've been in contact with state insurance commissioners in the affected states and are connecting with them to assist as they get questions about our program. We've also established a daily contact with our NFIP private insurance company partners, and they are ready also and prepared when the time is right. We've provided stakeholder information to folks on important information about the NFIP, and I would encourage people to go to floodsmart.gov to begin to learn how to file a claim and be ready to provide notice that they've been affected and have a claim with their insurance company, insurance agent, or insurance company representative. So we're poised to help. Please be safe. Don't go back too soon. We're ready. There's plenty of time to get your claim handled, and we'll help you through the NFIP claims journey. Thank you.
Gracias y buenos días. Daniel Yargues, portavoz de FEMA. Queremos decirle a la población que todavía es peligroso, muy peligroso, ya que se van a dar inundaciones repentinas y también deslaves, deslices de lodo. Entonces queremos pedirle a todos que pongan mucha atención a las condiciones del tiempo y también a las indicaciones de las autoridades locales. Es muy importante que continúen poniendo atención. Todavía es muy peligroso para la población esta tormenta tropical, ahora Florence. Casi 1 millón de personas perdieron energía eléctrica, casi alrededor de 17,000 personas están en albergues, en refugios. Continuamos apoyando las necesidades de los refugios, trabajando también muy de cerca con las autoridades locales y estatales de los estados de Carolina del Norte, Carolina del Sur. El presidente ayer hizo una declaratoria presidencial para el estado de Carolina del Norte. Estos fondos ahora son disponibles para las personas, individuos en Carolina del Norte y también para la infraestructura que fue o que puede ser dañada por la tormenta tropical o el huracán Florence. También queremos dar las gracias a los medios de comunicación por la ayuda que nos han dado para poder transmitir estos mensajes a la población para que estén seguros y sepan qué hacer durante estos tiempos de emergencia. Somos un equipo entero, así como la población también es parte del equipo. FEMA es el equipo, como lo dijo el administrador asociado Bayer. Esto es un equipo, una tarea de todos en conjunto y vamos a trabajar como tal, como un equipo. Para recapitular también y hacer una actualización de las personas que tengan seguro contra inundaciones, les pedimos que no se apuren, que no traten de hacerlo inmediatamente su reclamo con el seguro contra inundaciones, ya que tienen tiempo. También que bueno, continúen acatando a las indicaciones de las autoridades locales para poder saber cuándo pueden regresar a sus casas, ya que todavía hay peligro ante esta tormenta. Y bueno, continuamos trabajando también con los seguros y los comisionados de los estados impactados por esta tormenta para coordinar el seguro contra inundaciones, como lo dijo el señor Mustard. Thank you. Gracias.
We'll now open it for questions. Please remind everyone one follow-up in the interest of time, and please state your name and affiliation with your question.
Thank you. All right, we'll open it up for any questions. None. I'm joking. Yes, ma'am.
Lauren Fox with CNN. I just wanted to ask, why is the FEMA Administrator Brock Long not briefing us? He didn't brief us yesterday and isn't briefing us this morning. And is he going to remain in the job given the swirling controversy surrounding him at this point?
Right. As to the first question, why is our Administrator Brock Long not briefing? We have multiple press engagements, as you can understand. My role as the Response and Recovery Associate Administrator is to give the up-to-date information as it pertains to where we are in the response, where we are in the recovery. So, it's a team effort. So there's multiple media events, as you well know, that many of our teammates cover down on. So second question, our administrator is our administrator. He's given our team very clear guidance that the focus is Florence. I want to make sure that I echo that to our citizens in South Carolina, North Carolina, and our first responders that FEMA is clearly engaged. We know where our focus needs to be, and that is on the response and recovery of FEMA.
When was the last
Response and recovery of Florence.
When was the last time he briefed the president in person?
Yesterday. He briefed the president yesterday via phone. Yep. Yes, sir.
Taylor Poplars with Spectrum News. For the flooding that is still to come, especially more inland, do you and all the partners that you're working with feel that enough awareness has been given for people who live in communities that they may not think will flood from this, especially as the storm is being downgraded and we're seeing images from the coastlines where it may not look as bad as was anticipated? Right.
So, first of all, I would ask you that. Please keep echoing that message. Look, we have it's the way a hurricane is classified is based on the wind. Wind can hurt you. Nobody's saying that, but it is the water, it's the surge, it's the rain that affects and can kill you more than the wind can in a hurricane. And this is a massive storm. That has put a lot of rain and a lot of water on our coast, inland. So I would continue to ask that this team that's out there, keep echoing the message that there is a lot of rain to come. There's a lot of rain that's fallen. And, we hope that if our message can reach one person and it helps them save the lives of themselves or their family, we feel that that's success. Yes, ma'am.
Anjali Hemphill from Fox 5. I know the storm's not over yet, but how does this compare, I guess, to other storms in North Carolina, especially with the fact that flooding is changing, it's going more inland? Have they experienced something like that before? Can you...
So, you've heard us before. We don't like to compare storms. Every storm's different. And, when we start comparing storms, it may give those that a false sense that it's okay. What we want to do is focus on where the impacts have been and where the impacts are going. And so, if you're in the path of Hurricane Florence or you're in the continued rain, it's somebody said the other day, it's like being stalked by a turtle. This thing will not move up the coast. It will not get out of the way, and we continue to just get copious amounts of rain. So we really, really want to encourage the residents, not just on the coast, but inland, and then looking at the path of the storm as it moves up into the more northern states. It's going to affect a lot. So as far as comparison, there's been some large storms that's impacted North Carolina, as you're well aware, Hurricane Matthew, Hurricane Floyd, and others that caused a tremendous amount of flooding in different areas and certain areas. But, as the Weather Service, our partners with NOAA just briefed, a lot of rain is going to fall. It's got to go somewhere, and we want to be prepared to respond as quick as possible to meet the need. Anybody? Yes, sir.
Hey, Ben Kessling with the Wall Street Journal.
Yes, Ben.
Do you have any estimates at this point on just total numbers of money that's estimated to be spent by FEMA and in the recovery effort generally? Just any sort of updates on top-level statistics that would be useful.
I don't have an estimate on total. It's really still early. I know we're spending money for the response, and there's no limited factors there. With the declaration of the President, that does free up additional assistance to our citizens, which is most important, and also to our communities to help with the repair or the debris and the emergency protective measures that's already been spent. I can tell you this is going to be a costly storm. This is not going to be, if a storm, we always tell people, if a storm's destroyed your house or your community, it's the biggest storm you've ever faced. But this is not going to be, one of our storms that doesn't get a lot of media attention nationally. This is going to be a large storm. It's going to have impacts in multiple states.
And then just to follow up on
yes,
sir. The storms have been going on for a couple days now. So does FEMA, looking back and sort of reassessing readiness, preparedness, how much teaming up with local partners, training, etc., are you noticing any gaps in FEMA's preparedness now that there's been some time for this response to actually?
We'll definitely do an after action. We do an after action after every storm. We're not seeing gaps, as far as the preparedness for Hurricane Florence. We actively engaged starting, really Wednesday, Thursday of last week, starting to prepare that. We've had very good participation from our federal agencies. You've seen a very large Department of Defense to include the National Guard lay down. We embedded teams early. We embedded and began our logistics process early. So we feel like we're very prepared. We feel like we're very coordinated with both the state and the locals. We deployed our urban search and rescue teams early. So a lot of those traditional timelines, we did them a day early in a lot of cases, and I think we're seeing some benefit of that. But we will definitely do an after action. We've also always got to be prepared for the next storm. We've got to be prepared for whatever our citizens may face. I've said it before, every day is earthquake season. And so we've got to also have a preparedness mindset that as we're, working with our partners with Florence, we want to be prepared for whatever today may bring in another storm. Thanks. Yes, sir. Anybody got anything else? Yes, ma'am.
Tima with Vice News. I'm just wondering, what's your biggest challenge that you're facing at the moment? Being that it's slowed down and kind of things are holding. What's the biggest challenge you're facing?
You know, we face many challenges at this level. We have to understand, you know, we're at the headquarters level. One of our main roles and you know, what we're here to do is to gain and maintain situational awareness, make sure that we're briefing the senior officials of our government, and also make sure that we're using our voice to get warnings out to our citizens that are still in need. So the challenge will always be when you're sitting, you know, in a position like this, is gaining and getting the correct information. But also, you know, making sure that our field resources, those that are actually doing the work, have the resources they need to do the job. So, you know, my life is filled with challenges. You know, what I do is constantly think about the what ifs and the bad days. So, you know, challenges, you know, making sure that if we have to do any type of very expedited evacuation of a medical, you know, facility, do we have a plan in place, which we have game planned and war gamed that, you know, making sure that we have fuel plans in place for those facilities that are currently operating under generators. Make sure that we have secondary feeding plans in place for our NGO partners and others that may need. So, you know, as the response is going, one of our goals here at the headquarters and at our regional response coordination center down in Atlanta, and others are doing a fantastic job, is to make sure that we're not looking at the point of operation. What do we need to be prepared for tomorrow? Where do we need to be prepared for, you know, 2 days from now, so that we're supporting that field? So we don't have enough time to tell you everything I worry about, but you know, we feel like our major you know, issues, we have good contingency plans in place to meet the need. Anybody else? Well, again, thank you for the work that you do. I would strongly encourage and ask that you know, remain as part of that team effort to get that message out to the citizens. We are not by any way out of the clear with Hurricane Florence, and we pray for those that have been impacted and those that are in the path. Thank you.